those New Year's resolutions working out for you?
Well, it's day 4, so I'm on a good roll.
You're right. Day 4, 361 to go. You can do it. You got this, girl.
I can do it. I can do day 5. Woo!
You can do it. Well, yeah, the eggnog is still maybe a little bit in our systems, but we're rocking and rolling here. And I got a little story to tell about today and a little mishap that happened. So,
all right.
I'm working away, and I'm like, hey, I got a coaching call today, so I get everything all set up, and I actually had 2 different coaching calls, and I'm all ready to go, and the coach hadn't shown up, and they're normally like right on point, and me, I don't like people being late, so I'm starting to get a little irritated. I'm like, okay, it's been 5 minutes. So I go to start to launch a text in. My calls are tomorrow. I was on the wrong day on my calendar, which brings us to our topic today.
Yes. Calendaring. And you and I have had some fun with this because, well, number one, I just want to tell you that kind of stuff happens to me a lot too, where I'm like, why am I sitting here waiting? And I actually just had that happen with my Buffini coach, and she's on vacation and I forgot to take it off of my calendar. So we'll talk about that. But one of the things that I do is I'm a huge systems maker. And so I'm constantly trying all these systems, and some work and some don't. But the calendaring thing I've been committed to for the last couple years, and I keep getting better and adding more things. So I feel like this is going to be a really good topic of discussion.
I couldn't agree more. And, freedom through calendaring. I love that. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Part of the challenge here for me and calendaring and share calendaring is I was late to the G party, to the G suite. I was late to the party. Late to the Google. I was a fairly early adopter on Mac technology, and so I had my iMail and my iCal and all that. And as our office and the world moved to the G suite, I was just in my little silo working away, all happy. And as my team grew, that just didn't work. And so last year, kicking and screaming, they drugged me, and said, you got to come on over. You got to come over to the dark side. So I did. Yeah. It's pretty cool out there, I must say.
I know. I know.
So I'm late to the party, and then I've got some unique challenges too, which I think you've got some insight on why realtors kind of resist some of this stuff.
Agreed. So do you want to zoom in on this?
Yeah, I think maybe a little big picture, just real quick.
Okay.
Just before we get down to the gritty.
Brass tacks. You know me, I was like just going for the kill.
She goes in for the kill. I kind of like set the big game up. I like to get behind the blind. But, I think realtors. All right, Oz. Yeah. So realtors in general tend to be a little bit more on the free spirit side. And let's face it, to go into this business, you kind of have to have some of that.
Agreed.
In. A lot of them do. And we see that at the conferences when they look at the personality profiles. It overrepresents in realtors to be free spirits. And they tend to resist structure. Mm-hmm. But ironically, structure can provide the freedom that we're all looking for.
100% agree with you. And I am so anti, being in a box. I can't stand it. And as a matter of fact, when I get over calendared, it starts flipping me out just as much as, not having a plan. So I have to be really careful about that. And we'll talk about this a little bit as we go.
Yeah, well, let's zoom in. Let's get into the nitty gritty.
Okay. So my calendaring really started with one of my Buffini coaches, Billy Van Raphorst. He said, if you don't know what you're doing, It's kind of like tracking our numbers. But if you don't know what you're doing, how are you going to be prepared? How are you going to let your team know? How is everybody going to be on the same page? And that was a really big thing for me because I had a business partner. I still have a business partner and an assistant, and nobody knew where I was or what I was doing. And so they were trying to help me by scheduling appointments or calling clients back or taking care of things. But little Miss Jefi Moultrie, Free Spirit, was like, I'm not going to put that on my calendar. I know what I'm doing. It's all in my head. So I really had to get into that and make it happen. And ultimately, that just made me feel more in control of my day.
Yeah. So I love this because I see how you work and you're so calendar driven and you're so structured. And it makes me feel good that there's a path forward for me because I wouldn't have ever thought that you were the one to kind of like hold it in and like to go off your merry way doing what you like to do, which is the way I love to operate. You know, I kind of, I like to, hey, where is he? Well, you know, that's kind of my design. I kind of like that, but that doesn't scale. And as you grow, your people, they need to know where you are and what they need to do.
This is an interesting piece of this too. So you and I are not business partners per se. Like we don't share a business. We share a podcast and we share referrals and we share a lot of that. But my business partner, Joe, he has access to my calendar and I have access to his. So if I'm trying to book a joint meeting, I can just go on there and see exactly what he has going on. And we do a lot of check-ins, like at the beginning of the week. Hey, is your calendar up to date? Can I book things? So that's a good check-in because we can't be perfect, but it really helps.
Yeah, it definitely does. And the same, like I see Beth's calendar, she sees mine. And so the problem is not all my things are on there, right? So I have to, and that's a New Year's thing I'm really digging into is to make sure. But, you know, why do I resist? I think it's this kind of free spirit thing working. Like another example of it is Strava, which, you know, a lot of people are familiar with, where people track all their rides and their exercise and what they do. I don't participate in that. Because I don't want people knowing exactly where I am and what I'm doing. It's just like how I'm wired. It's like if I'm going to go off on a ride, that's my time, or a run. It's just the way I am. I tend to hold those things in, but that doesn't work in a growing business. You have to let everybody know.
Sure. So here's just a little thing that came to my mind with this because, you know, sometimes things you're doing are personal. So if I'm doing something that's personal that has to get done, I just write in personal time and I block that off. Your whole team doesn't need to know that you're, you know, I'm not going to say something bad. You know, they don't need to know where you, right, you're doing something personal, but they don't need to know the details of that. But you do need to block that time out so that they don't schedule you for something during that time.
I think I'll put off the reservation. I'll just put that there.
There you go. I like that.
Yeah. He's just wandered off.
To the moon.
but it's blocked out. So that's good. So I like that. Well, shall we dive in now? I know you're a real taskmaster. And so I want to hear about this. I think we need to get into the details here because this was like a real game changer for me. I can see it's going to be. Okay.
So there's something that I know about myself is I hate digging around and looking for things. And I am a very much paper-driven person, and it's taken a lot for me to get my life into a computer because I like everything laid out. Like, oh, here's my transactions, and here's my clients, and here's my notes, and my stamps, and my, you know, and I've tried really hard to take care of that. So there's one thing, and we're going back to the tracker, which Ed taught me how to do, and I absolutely love, and I'm very diligent about it. So on my calendar on Wednesdays at noon, there's a task that's there. And when I click the task, there's a link to the Google file where I need to go to fill out the information. So I know. So I don't have to look for anything. I don't have to do anything. What I'm doing is I'm making it as simple as possible for me to do what I need to do. I'll tell you again, too. I'll tell you again. I didn't mean to say it that way. Mr. Billings. No, I would also like to share that my sweet Raquel, who I love so freaking much, she will answer the phone for me because my phone's on forward. And she'll answer the phone, and if there's something in there that I need to do, she'll know that we're doing our podcast, and at the end of the podcast, she'll call these people. And inside that task list, she'll have all the people that called that need immediate attention. So I don't do anything else except for that first. She'll do it for, it's beautiful. She'll also do it for showings. So if I have a showing, she puts the calendar, she puts the address in where I'm going. So all I have to do is click the address, and the address populates on my phone, so I know how to drive. I mean, look, it's a game changer. And you do one thing, do it well, then add another, then add another, then add another, because I've been adding these for a couple of years now.
Yeah,
but
that is
I can
awesome.
do, I know, and I can do what most people do in 6 hours and 4, because I'm not digging around and farfing around.
Yeah, that's just amazing. And, a little backstory here.
Yeah.
So in show prep on this over the break, Jefi's like, you really need to dig into tasks. So I started doing that, which again is not my natural nature. And I'm like putting them all in there, everything. It's just like going to this task. And then I was getting into it because it's cool. Checking that off.
Check it off.
Checking this off. It's going, I'm like, look at me. It's clean. So I can see how this becomes a gamification of really getting your stuff done. And I love the fact that you're auto-tasking, you're linking, and then you're delegating. Auto-tasking, linking, delegating. Huge productivity gains there when you do that.
Absolutely. And that takes us to calendar hygiene.
We're going to talk about hygiene.
Is everybody ready? Middle schoolers, we're going to talk about some hygiene. Yeah. So, and I think we've talked about this in a past pod, but I had a mentor. Her name was Colette Lipsy. As a matter of fact, she was probably one of the very first people that got me excited about Buffini, to be honest. I mean, this is 20 years ago. And her thing was erase and replace. So we're talking old school calendars. You write things in a pencil, and if something changed, you had to go in and erase it and put it somewhere else and replace it with whatever you needed. And that is probably the biggest part of calendar hygiene that you can narrow down. You can't have crap on there that you're not doing. If you're saying, I'm going to call 10 clients a day at 9 a.m. and you're never doing it, you need to take it off your calendar because you're not doing it. It's just white noise then. My calendar is a working system that only has the things that I actually do, and I reassess that on a weekly basis.
Huge. And,
Huge.
As you're talking about this, I'm thinking about the standing appointments that I have on there that I'm not going to anymore. Or, different season in life. I need to clean those out and do that. So,
no white noise. No white noise. It has to be, this is my calendar is my boss. And my boss doesn't talk shit. My boss tells me exactly what I need to do. And if there's crap on there that shouldn't be there, you need to get it off.
Love it. Okay, so what's next on all this? So here's where we're headed, folks. I'm going to be in the remedial calendar class. So for the next 30 days, I'm upping my game. I'll be tasking away and calendaring and getting Beth on board. And then we're going to do a little report card on this in 4
Okay,
weeks.
I'm not calling you. I'm calling Beth.
Maybe we'll bring Beth on and she can report in how I'm doing. That could be kind of fun.
Yeah, so you can't be fluffing things. It's going to be the for reals.
It'll be the for real stuff. So that's what's next. And I, thinking about this, the bottom line on it is that if you commit to it, it really is going to give you more freedom. Mm-hmm. And if you know what you're doing, if you know what you're not doing, that's where the freedom comes in, and the mental noise goes away. And it made me think a little bit about the story back when I was at Grubb & Ellis. I was in the industrial division, which was kind of like the macho guys, right? So we would standard meetings were 8 a.m. for sales meetings, right? Except the industrial guys, we met at 7:30 just because, right? So it was always different. We had to be a little bit better. And whoever was running that meeting had to bring in the snacks that morning. So it was donuts and pastries and all this stuff. And there's all this mental noise about what are you going to eat? Well, I said, I ain't eating that stuff anymore. And I made kind of a big deal about it. And so as the box would go around, I'd like smell them, look at everybody, and then pass it on. And I've probably, in the last 30 years, I've probably had a dozen donuts. I just cut it off. It's like something I don't do. And it gave me so much freedom. I'm not tempted by any of that stuff.
Right. So
structure can give you some freedom.
I was wondering where you're going with that story. Are we eating donuts? What's going to happen? What are we talking about?
All right,
but
maybe
it was
that
good.
one didn't land.
It was good, Billings. It was good.
Yeah, we'll see if that one lands with our listeners. But anyway.
All right, donut boy.